You are watching Conscious Evolution with Wes Heffernan.
You think of, a football game. Everybody in the stands is a witness. They're not participating in the game, but the game affects them in every moment, how they feel, what they think, right? And so all the audience in the stands are witnesses to the third perspective, the first person perspective, the players on the field, the coaches, and everything that's required for this game that's being watched, witnessed, to unfold. Right, and so then the observer perspective would be the blimp above the stadium that doesn't hear, the only thing it sees is the straight down view. And so you have those three perspectives, but when you bring those into life, the observer perspective, the only place it can happen is in the mind, right? Because the only place you can pull yourself out and look back down, you can't really do that in the physical world. So I disconnected from Wes for so long of a period of time because I lived from that I could see myself. I mean, and Wes was here. I was, it's not like I wasn't here. I felt pain. I felt sorrow. I say
it wasn't an outer body experience.
It wasn't an outer body experience, but I walked through life with my internal dialogue as the observer, explaining to me, helping me, especially through the dark times. And so what I'm saying is I lived from there and tried to learn from my experiences as I went on because I analyzed everything.
And now you're putting it on tape, right? So this is being taped in the year 2023, right? So let's fast forward 20, 30 years. Your grandkids are watching this. Right, and now your experiences that you put on tape can help guide them. Is that part of your goal? Do you feel like your kids and what is your expectation for their viewing of this later on?
The expectations of that aren't so important to me. And again, maybe this is coming from me separating Wes from Michael again, I don't know, but what drives me is the overall impact of being a part of something that is just part of this process, right? Is going to change everything. And we're on the cusp of something similar to the Dark Ages. It doesn't have to be another Dark Ages, but that same concept of everything we believe to be true, right, is in the carpet being yanked out, and all these concepts and ideas that were built into the structure of that period of time was realized that is just none of this is accurate. Well, we're in that same period of time now, but it's not about saying none of this is accurate. It's about yanking the carpet out and saying, look, there's so much more, right? And being a part of helping, this is so multifaceted, helping bring it about, but to help, and again, I guess it's the building the parts, the relationships, the stories, the stage to tell the stories, all the things that but more than that, seeing the change, seeing a seed, burst into a sprout, and seeing that sprout grow into a shrub, and that shrub grow into a tree, and I guess 20, 30. What I hope, if I have an expectation, what I hope is that I get to taste the fruit. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But being part of the process of planting and regrowing the garden,
right?
Bringing heaven to earth. It's heaven's here. It's not like we have to bring it to earth. It's scattered across the face of the earth. It's just we have to bring the pieces, and it's not like we have to go out and pick these pieces up. We have to live a life in a way in which those pieces no longer have space between them from our perspective, right? It's not like in the concept of expanding and contracting, right? The pieces of heaven are scattered because it's contracted. We just need to pull them in to breathe in, because they're expanded. We just need to pull in and contract them back, and they naturally fit together, almost like Pangea, right? Like you look at the Earth and it's all, well, you could pull it back to one same concept. In fact, you're catching, live on action here. You think of that concept specifically, and maybe what the kingdom of heaven being scattered around the face of the earth is that the kingdom of heaven represents all of the mass of the earth, represented by land mass in this example, represented by humanity in the story, right, was all one thing. And then it's been broken up and scattered across through all these countries, continents, oceans, divided by oceans, right? So something to think about.
There's always something to think about.
Yeah.
That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
How many new concepts, ideas do you allow yourself to focus on a regular basis?
So how do you get from A to B? Follow the path, you look for the signs, only the ones that draw my attention. But at this point, like, I used to kind of struggle with that, right? But at this point, all I have to do is have the intent, right? Have a purpose in the intent, and that information, either A, I flow to it, or B, it flows to me, or whatever that, however you, right? Like, the two become one. And so whether it's through a conversation, a TV show, a book, an internal dialogue, a spiritual, right, like the Grand Canyon or Niagara, like, there's so many different ways. There's not just one particular way that it comes, but living with intent and purpose. Any question I have, I've been led to, or been able to create a reasonable answer within my own head. And the next challenge becomes, okay, so I can communicate it to myself. But how do you share that with other people, that with everything moving around, right, nobody's snapshots are going to look the same. And so what I'm trying to, the picture that I have in my mind of the story that I'm telling, or the concept that I'm communicating, are the words that I'm using going to create that same picture within you, or you, or you? No. Probably, right? I mean, by today's standards, absolutely no, right?
Plus with all the distractions of today's...
Right, and so how do we, like, the first step is really, I mean, before we can all sit down and start talking, the first step is to really slow everything down and take all these snapshots and begin to, like, have a conversation about what that means and how we can put that together, right? And like, before we can do that, we have to agree. We have to come to an agreement that, listen, there's something going on, one, and that because we are here together, we're being drawn towards it, two, and then three, to make the choice of, am I going to take on the responsibility of my role in this or not? I mean, it really doesn't matter, right? Whether I do this or somebody else does this, or whether, it's a role that's being filled by an individual that chooses to fill that role. And like, here's all these possible, here's the many, right, to fill this particular role, and then boop, so here, this role is filled, and now, okay, let's go fill this role, right? And there's a role for everyone.
When you said all these many, it made me think of the grid, and then not the lines, but the dots.
Right.
So would that correlate in any way when there's all these different ways?
Yeah, so there's two. So one of the confusing things I think about sacred geometry, or all of the things that flow from that, the seed of life, flower of life, all those kind of concepts, is it's being expressed in two ways. One's expanded, one's contracted. So when everything overlaps, it's contracted. And when it's contracted, the best way I know to describe this is think of it as a photon.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you have a second way of seeing it, and that's expanded, where the circles touch each other. Instead of overlapping, they touch. And so you're expanded out. And now think of it as a proton, right? And so you have these two ways of studying something. One is in action, compressed, that's moving. All the gears are locked together and everything's flowing, right? But you can't study that because you have to put a skin on it and call it something. So like, we can't really see this camera operating because it's a camera, right? And we have faith in all of the metaphysical aspects of this camera that we can't see to operate and function properly so that this camera does its job. And we have complete faith in that. It's no different, right? So inside me, I'm the camera or whatever, right? Like there's me and there's all these other parts that make me me that nobody can see, not even me. Right? And that's metaphysics.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time on Conscious Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe.